Now this is proper ad music, not that belongs in the background of an erectile dysfunction ad music Roland's been using all week. No, this is ad music appropriate for the sweet, sweet event we've got coming up this Saturday. That's right, this Saturday, March 18th, from 6 p.m. to midnight EST, we will be hosting the Patreon 6-hour reward stream on twitch.tv/.ptv. We'll be doing drawings all night long for great giveaways like DotP t-shirts, Dota 2 mouse pads, and end the night with a SteelSeries rival Dota 2 edition mouse. Everybody who has contributed to the Patreon already, or before, or during the 6-hour stream will be eligible to win. Find more information on patreon.com/defense of the patients, and scope out the details in one of our more recent posts, and check out the latest patron-exclusive podcast while you're there. That's Saturday, March 18th from 6 p.m. to midnight EST. Now, here's the show. Hey guys, so today's episode is another member of the Liquipedia staff and also the manager for Team Liquid's professional Overwatch team. His name is Tephus. He was kind enough to sit down with me last week to talk about things that are going on at Liquipedia, some of the trials and tribulations they've gone through, the overwhelming task that it is to maintain a Dota 2 wiki, and on top of that, as you may have heard if you listened to the Q&A yesterday, I think 8 additional wikis on top of it, and they're always expanding out into new areas and new games and just additional things in general that are really impressive. And this particular gentleman is now, because of his involvement with the Overwatch Liquipedia, moving into the position of manager for their pro team. So I got to hear a little bit about that, kind of compare and contrast the kind of new, younger, up-and-coming esports with those old-school legacy esports, the guys who... I hate to step on any of his comparisons because they were truly interesting, truly fascinating, and I really hope you enjoy it. And thanks to Liquipedia for setting us up with 2 of their great staff members this week. You can find and follow them at LiquipediaNet, and you can also find Tephus at Tephus, Tephus. Thanks again to Liquipedia and all those guys for setting us up with that. Remember, of course, you already heard the commercial, but the Saturday stream, March 18th, 6 p.m. to midnight EST, tons of giveaways, all that good stuff. You can still enter to be part of those drawings just by supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/defense of the patients. All right, guys, here's the show. You are listening to a DotP one-on-one. Pyrian Flax, welcome to the show, sir.
Hello.
That is Casey Atchison. Welcome to the show, Casey.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Welcome, Sunsfan.
Hello, friends. It's been a long time.
Mott, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me once again. Very excited to be here.
Austin, Capitalist Walsh. Welcome to the show, Cap.
Thank you very much, man. It's good to be back.
Special guest, Sir Action Slacks. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Hey everybody, welcome to another DotP one-on-one. I'm Cyphus as usual, but today I am joined by one of the staff members over at Liquipedia, Tephus. Tephus, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we had some audio issues initially, but it looks like it's panning out all right now. So we're gonna dive into this and we're gonna do as much as we can, see what we can get done here. For those who, I can't imagine there's anybody that listens to this that doesn't know what Liquipedia is, but maybe there are some folks who don't know that this fantastic tool is out there. Why don't you give them a little rundown of what Liquipedia is all about and what you guys do?
So, sure, I hope everyone knows of Wikipedia, right? That is the big project for wikis. So our initial plan, what we kind of set out to do is run a wiki for esports. We want to record the competitive scene, tournaments, players, teams, and just have a place where all that history is stored and kept and available to everyone. This, I think, before Liquipedia, this didn't really exist. For Brood War, where we started, if you wanted to go back and check the history of things, you would have to either go through each tournaments, sites, or VODs, or maybe you were lucky and there's some collection of threads you could dig through and see what happened, but there's no central place to really track any of this, and so we started with kind of the goal of just a centralized place to keep track of everything you can. And it's, as a wiki, it's open to everyone. Anyone can edit, and we really feel that's a really beneficial way to set this up and keep it as both as accurate and as updated as possible. If anyone can edit it, then live updating is easy. Keeping track of smaller individual scenes around the world is much easier, as any player or team or viewer can come and contribute.
Yeah. Do you guys, is the staff kind of intimately involved in updating those live tournament results, or is that, do you get a lot more out of just kind of the general user community?
It's a good mix. So the staff, to be promoted to staff, you generally have to have a large contribution to the wiki already. It doesn't matter that if that is live updating tournaments or if that's more designing templates or designing how the wiki should be running or designing how it's looking. Any contribution we find is valuable. We have our own kind of interesting metrics to try to gauge and weight different contributions, but we value it all. The more senior staff is generally kind of live updates a little bit less and kind of updates rosters and things like that a bit less, and more work on back-end HTML or server issues these days, but
Right.
The staff cover everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you guys got started with StarCraft, right?
Yeah, so initially, while it was competitive kind of focused, the goal wasn't particularly to keep track of the competitive scene. Initially, the first goal was just a strategy kind of database for StarCraft, a place to look at different builds and strategies you can do on different maps and stuff. And I'm not sure exactly what the first step was towards keeping track of the competitive scene, but once that started, it took over the wiki. Everyone started kind of focusing more on that. And even if you go back to both the StarCraft wikis, there is still a lot of the kind of strategy discussion and build orders and things of that nature. But the whole competitive recording, I guess, has taken over the idea of the wiki.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's kind of a natural evolution for it, especially where, like you said, there really wasn't a great location for all of that information to kind of be housed, that history to really be tracked. So it definitely, it's nice to see that. So let's learn a little bit about you. Where are you from?
I live up in Canada, in a small town called Victoria. It's kind of off the coast of off the west coast near Vancouver, on an island there. I've lived there for quite a few years now. I work or have worked generally as like a software developer. Surprise. But more recently, I've been joining Team Liquid in, I guess, more capacities. I recently have actually signed up to be their Overwatch manager, which has been a pretty cool and interesting experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did that kind of come about? What kind of led to those events?
So for that one, since as of about 2 or 3 years ago, we've really started pushing the wiki in as many kind of pockets we see it could fit. And as of about, I guess, a year and a few months ago, we started up an Overwatch wiki to try to push into that. We have a really good relationship with Blizzard at Team Liquid in general. All our sites our history goes back quite a few years with them, and we thought this would be a great fit to start an Overwatch wiki. And I was one of the kind of leading guys behind that. Gave the wiki most of its start, and with that, I was already talking to a lot of the players, a lot of the teams, a lot of the tournament organizers, and then once Team Liquid stepped in and signed a team, they were talking about needing a manager to help their team out, and I guess I seemed like a pretty good fit. I'd already worked with our team. I'd already worked with a lot of the scene. Being early, there was not many people that were kind of in that position yet, and we went from there.
Yeah. How's the competitive scene in Overwatch shaping up? I mean, obviously everybody listening to this is pretty focused on Dota, but we definitely have a lot of Overwatch players out there. I think we've got an Overwatch chat in the DotP Discord, and so I mean I know a lot of folks are definitely kind of splitting their time between the two games. How's that competitive scene shaping up right now? Do you feel like?
It's really interesting right now. Right now, it's really kind of like Wild West stuff going on. I can think back to maybe a few years ago in Dota where everyone's kind of building towards TI no matter what. There wasn't majors to think about. All the other tournaments were just kind of stepping stones to TI, and for us, it's the Overwatch League. That's on the horizon, except we don't know really anything about it. And but all the teams, all the organizers, all the players are looking towards it as we want to be ready for it. And there's constant roster changes. There's constant teams going from one org to another. Tournaments don't know what they should be doing to, I guess, survive in Overwatch League world. And so it is a bit crazy right now. It's really interesting what Blizzard wants to do. I'm not 100% convinced of exactly their ability to get there, but they certainly seem to be putting the resources out there to achieve that. So it's really interesting.
Well, and Blizzard's definitely remaining a contender in the competitive esports realm. I mean, it sounds like, it felt like StarCraft kind of died out for a minute, and now I keep being told, because I always point to StarCraft as kind of having had a downward trajectory at one point, and I am constantly recorrected and told that StarCraft is resurging. StarCraft is kind of coming back in a big way. So I can't imagine a world where Blizzard isn't contending in that realm of competitive esports. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I also heard recently that their World of Warcraft stuff is coming on big. They're trying to push that real hard. Hearthstone, of course, is pretty big. A lot of people play that. So there's a lot of push there from Blizzard just to keep, I guess, relevant and going in esports. They see it as a big part of video games these days, and I think it should be.
Yeah, for sure. So you're living up in Victoria. You're pretty close over there to Seattle. Are you a big enough Dota fan that you have headed down to check out a TI yet?
Definitely. I've been to all but one in Seattle, and I had tickets for the one I missed, but there was a scheduling conflict, and so I had to miss it. So I've been to basically all of them. I didn't go to the one in Germany, but I've also been to one of the ESLs in Germany and something else somewhere. But yeah, I'm a big Dota fan, so that's kind of how I started in esports.
So are you still working a day job, or is Dota and Team Liquid, is that kind of your primary focus point at this point?
That is my primary focus at this point. I'm full-time esports now.
That's awesome. So so for those out there who are looking to get into esports, what was kind of your trajectory to getting into esports?
For me, it was just getting involved. I started watching with, say, StarCraft 2, but I wasn't really doing anything with the scene. I would, stay up late nights and watch Korean StarCraft and fun stuff like that, but I wasn't contributing in any way. But then with the announcement of Dota 2, and I played a lot of Dota 1 way back in the day, I guess 15 years ago now. And with the announcement of Dota 2, I got pretty excited about the game in a way that I wasn't excited about StarCraft 2. I loved StarCraft 2. I was, again, staying up till 4 a.m. to watch Korean games. I was all over that, but Dota 2 ignited something else in me, and so I watched all I could there, and I was looking continually for ways to do things. I was writing articles and interviewing people, and eventually Team Liquid decided to push their wiki into Dota 2. This decision was made a few months before TI2, and at the same time they also wanted to make a new website, Liquid Dota, for TI2. And with both those things, I basically signed up to work on both of them, and that's how I started actually really contributing.
Initially just doing a lot of stuff for free, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's people who try to get into esports think there's a lot of money in esports, but that's not really the case. A lot of everything's just a passion project for most people until it gets big enough where they can maybe pay themselves and maybe some support around them. So from there I was continued kind of writing articles, interviewing on Liquid Dota, contributing to Liquipedia, running coverage on Liquid Dota, anything I could do just because I loved the game. After about a year and a half of that, I was given the title of head of the Dota 2 Liquipedia. I was very senior staff on Liquid Dota. This is all volunteer work. There's no payment, but I loved what I was doing. This was tons of fun in my free time, and it gives you the experience and the connections and all these things that you can need to if you are looking to start an esports career. They say esports is kind of like an old man club, but any sort of thing like this, you need to know people. Like the job is knowing people and connecting with people and stuff like that. You can't do it without that. And so building that base is really important to start out. Just find any way you can contribute, meet as many people as you can, prove that you're good at doing things, and you'll get noticed.
Yeah. So when did you personally get into gaming? What was your first video game that really drew you in?
Oh man, I don't even know. I remember as a kid, like sitting on my older brother's like lap, watching him play games when I was probably 2 or 3. Forever ago. There's like TIE Fighter and Heroes of Might and Magic 1, and old games. There's this one game that still draws me back occasionally. It's an old DOS-based game, but it's been rewritten a few times, keeping all the original mechanics, called VGA Planets. It's like a turn-based strategy, originally over email, where you'd send your turns around by email, and there's some magic to that game, but it's a bit hard to learn and get over the initial bump of looking at kind of what are spreadsheets. So, and then
your first foray into Dota was with the original Dota 1 mod for Warcraft 3.
Yeah, for sure. So with Brood War, I played a bit of Brood War, but I didn't really actually play the real game. You'd go on there and you'd play, use map settings and all the weird things people came up with, all the different tower defenses and RPGs and what other things that people are decide to make. And so with Warcraft 3 coming out, it's like, this is just going to be the same except better, right? There's better editor, better graphics, all this stuff. And so I got it and got into all those games. And of course, one of the big ones was Dota, and played that with a lot of my friends. At one point, I played in Cyber Athlete Amateur League, I think it was, match once with some friends, and I was pretty bad and got crushed. I was still pretty young at the time, but it was fun. Yeah. It was I guess my first introduction to real esports. I didn't even know there was real competition at that time, and my just friends like, oh, we need someone, come play. But it was fun.
So when did you get into Dota 2? Like, were you right there as soon as the alpha or the beta dropped, or like what was your kind of foray into Dota 2 proper?
Yeah, definitely. The moment it was announced, I was all over it. I was up all night watching the games in Germany. I woke up at I guess they started at like 2 or 3 a.m. and started plugging away with those. Some of my friends were up with me. It was pretty fun doing that. I got into the beta, I think 2 or 3 months later, October or November or something, so pretty early. Still, I think there was only 5,000 or 6,000 people online at a given time, way back at that point, and just been, I guess, playing it since then. And
so when you play, what role do you prefer to play right now?
Um, I don't really see a role I prefer playing. It's more generally heroes I like and don't like. I think I more or less play every role if needed, I guess. I generally play with friends these days. I'm not huge on the queuing experience. I more just enjoy playing games with friends, whether it even be 5-stack or full in-houses. But yeah, I generally play everything. It's more, I won't play carry if the carry we select is the carry I don't like, kind of thing, and stuff like that. But I probably prefer playing off lane. I just feel like it's fun to be able to do things with few items or under lots of pressure and still be able to make contributions and stuff. I find that kind of fun.
Yeah. Do you get to play as often as you might like having an esports career, or do you find that really kind of infringes upon your time to play?
Definitely not anymore. Definitely since I started working with Overwatch, my time in Dota has definitely fallen off, but I still try to play when I can. My time in like every game, playing at any game, has fallen pretty drastically, but still obviously enjoy it. But it's hard to find the time sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of the beast. The moment you start creating content for a game or getting involved in kind of the management of the game or some facet of it, that eats up time, and more often than not, that eats up a little bit more free time than we'd like to admit.
Yeah.
So I always like to ask people this question just because it's fascinating to me, and I know that I feel like our generation is on the verge of this being, a legitimate potential career path. How does your family feel about you being involved in video games? Were they kind of standoffish at first when you told them, "Hey, because you're a software engineer or or rather a computer science major of some sort"? I'm sure they probably thought, "Oh, there's a way more lucrative and safe direction you could go." How did they feel about it all?
There's mixed opinions. There's definitely those thoughts of I could be right now making much more money at a much more stable position, at a prestigious company or something. My brother works at Microsoft and constantly, is poking me if I want a job there or something. But there's the other side is they know that while I enjoy development and I enjoy these things, I also really enjoy the esports environment. And I think if I was completely taken away from this, I wouldn't be happy. And I think they know that as well. And so they understand kind of the choices I make. I still do some software development for Team Liquid, so I'm still doing that stuff, and I'm not paid awfully, but it's definitely nowhere. It's definitely not what I could be making in my field. So there are sacrifices you have to make to do what you want to do. I see it as just a trade-off between really enjoying your work and only having your free time to enjoy what you're doing instead of enjoying everything you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So what have been some of the unique challenges you think you've faced, starting with Liquipedia or with Team Liquid in general? What are some of the major hurdles you've had to overcome along the way?
So more recently, big hurdles, of course, is in managing a team is anytime there's like roster changes or team's performance is poor, there's so many things you want to do and maybe you can't do, or there's so many barriers to like, I want to sign this player, or I want to do this with the team, or you have to talk to a player that is going to be cut from the team. Those are always not fun conversations, and then it can be really tough to either convince an external player that you want to sign them, or you have to make the case to the org that you want to sign some other player. There's a lot of interesting challenges there. With Liquipedia, challenges are more just learning. It's like learning as a software developer. It's learning another language or two or three. There's a lot of that goes into a wiki, but in general, the community with Liquipedia is amazing. We have we've now moved to Discord, but originally we were all on IRC, and anytime you had any sort of problem, you could just hop in there and instantly be connected to 30, 40 other contributors that would immediately and gladly answer any question you have. So it's a lot easier than people, I guess, think it could be, despite being coding and scary and stuff like that. It's pretty straightforward and simple. The biggest problems we have at, I guess, Liquipedia technically, though, is server capacity. We have some interesting stuff that some people might notice, and it is there's a lot of, since about a year and a half ago, a lot of kind of automatically updated stuff on the wiki. Like the front page, there's like upcoming games, and all the prize winnings is automatically thrown at every player. They're like achievement lists and how much they've earned. All these things are automatically done now, and unfortunately with how wikis are stored and the software behind it, this is not done in a very efficient way, and we actually come up against performance barriers very often. So that's a challenge that we're constantly fighting with.
Are you ever so stressed that you feel like quitting when you're doing? I mean, when you're trying to managing a team and updating a wiki, and ensuring that everything, because the goal of the wiki is to be as current as possible. The goal of maintaining a team is to keep them in tip-top shape and ready to go, and maintaining and struggling through all these roster changes. I mean, do you ever just hit those moments where you're like, man, enough is enough?
No, there's times when there's never times where I want to withdraw from the thing, but there are times when I want to maybe close projects. So like I think this project should be closed. I don't think it's working. I think we should stop proceeding in this direction. It's taking up everyone's time. It's not doing very much for us. There's a lot of times like that, and sometimes I'm wrong, of course, and they turned out really good, but there's definitely I never I love doing this stuff. It's never I never feel like I need a week off from what I'm doing, but there's definitely times when I want everyone to take a step back from certain aspects and say, like, this is garbage, let's stop this.
Yeah. Hey, we love the term garbage around here. So one of the questions I like to ask people, and I'll instead of just being Dota specific, I'll include Overwatch. Where you're so involved in what's going on in kind of the Dota pro scene, and obviously now in the Overwatch pro scene, do you feel like those experiences have made you a better Dota and or Overwatch player in the process? Do you feel like you've learned things that you've incorporated into your own game?
Oh, definitely. I never played enough to grind out mechanics and stuff like that, and I've never been an amazing FPS player. But anytime I even play with my friends, there's constantly things that you can take from those experiences. Especially like in Overwatch with such a new game, I'm every day dealing with 6 pro players, talking to them about strategies. I'm watching some of their scrims and stuff like that, and there's constantly things like I can just bring into a game with some of my friends, and just some of the ideas just make it so we dominate, even though there's nothing special any of us are doing, but just taking some small strategy and sticking with it and using it correctly, just you clean up, right? It can sometimes be like that. A lot of I think support play in Dota 2 is mostly just movement and knowing how the game works, rather than being a super high skill player. And I think you get that best from just analyzing the game, and not so much, of course, playing it and learning is important, but a lot of that is from analysis and not just grinding out matches or mechanics.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, it's interesting that you're involved with Overwatch as well, just because I always one of the things I feel like I interact with a lot getting into esports, and for me, Dota was kind of the big draw. Like Dota is what got me into esports. I never cared, even though I loved every iteration of Halo. I never gave a shit about the Halo Pro scenes. I never gave a damn about pretty much any game before this one that I played about what was kind of going on in the professional esports realm. That being said, once I got into Dota, I felt like one of the things that I saw from a lot of people is like this game identity. Like part of my identity is Dota 2. Is that I like Dota 2. I don't watch any other pro scene but Dota. It's the only one that I care about, or CS:GO, or Hearthstone, or StarCraft. I feel like I see people do a lot of that. Do you think we're, and obviously you're now interested in both, the Dota 2 pro scene and the Overwatch pro scene. Do you think we're kind of headed in that direction where these various games can kind of intermingle in a positive way for esports in general?
So I know what you're talking about, but from my experience, unfortunately I see it as a little different. I've always seen this kind of response more as, unfortunately, from the scene as what they aren't. Like, Dota is not League, and there's a big divide there, and there's a lot of, animosity between those two scenes for sometimes good reasons, if you go back in the history. But that's when some of these games kind of take the spotlight and you feel like you're, in the shadows and stuff like that, it can build a bit of animosity between scenes. While I do see that between kind of like Dota and League, I've never seen that between anyone I know or anything like, even on Reddit or anything like that, between something like Dota and CS:GO, or Dota and Brood War, or Smash, or something like that. I feel like this is kind of wild theory time, but there's a respect, I think, between some of these games that have long storied histories and kind of have scenes that were kind of grinded it out for 10 plus years of basically being nothing, right? Sleeping on the floors and tournaments and stuff. I think there's a lot of respect between scenes that went through that with, StarCraft 1, with Smash, with Quake, with Counter-Strike, with Dota 1, right? These scenes grinded it out for ages, just through passion and the quality of the game. And I think there's a lot of mutual respect between there. And sometimes you see these new games come on the scene, like League of Legends, or sometimes even new Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, and some of these, and even Overwatch, you could say, where it feels like they're just kind of given it. They haven't earned the scene, so to speak, whereas all these other games have really, they've put the time in, I think, maybe. And but I've never.
They pioneered it. They pioneered it, right? Like a Team Liquid wouldn't have existed for there to be a good start to a Liquid Overwatch team. It had those previous games not come into, or not suffered through that, or gone through that kind of legacy game, early phase.
Exactly. So, in my experience, I've never, of those old games, I've never seen any real animosity between fans or players, but I do see that from time to time regarding some newer games and stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a really interesting perspective. I definitely never really considered. So I'm gonna ask you. I'll ask you this in two kind of phases. So what's on the horizon for Liquipedia? What's kind of coming up on Liquipedia that we can be looking for that might be interesting to keep an eye out for?
So there's always new things coming. Fortunately, since about a year ago now, we started, I guess, the alpha project, where we can really, really rapidly set up new wikis. Before then, it was kind of a weird process of like trying to see if there was space and see if we had enough staff members to maybe start one, and it was kind of awkward and kind of weird. But since about a year ago, we've started a pretty good process for trying to start up new alphas, gauge interest, and communicate with the scenes and things like that. And I think right now we're at we have 10 full-fledged wikis. I think 2 or 3 of those started from the Alpha Wiki program, and we have 11 Alpha wikis. So we're pretty rapidly expanding now into basically any game we think there's room and contributors for. So that's one of the big things you can, if you go to our, I don't know if they're all on the main page yet, but they're all pretty much there. We've even started preemptively a diabolical wiki for Two Goods game, just in case, right? It's good to be there at the ground level. We've even started a League of Legends wiki recently. There's a lot of work to be done there. It's a really, really big scene, but finally we're touching that game for some reason we've avoided for far too long.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
so what's
rapidly expanding.
That's awesome. So what's on the horizon for the Team Liquid Overwatch team?
So we just recently, I think, finalized our roster and got a coach. We're also doing our best to prepare for Overwatch League. We're pretty hopeful and optimistic that we will be in Overwatch League. It's a bit of confusion around there, around what Blizzard is preparing or trying to do. There's not much information regarding basically anything, how the bid process will go, and what you actually get for buying into the league. So there's a lot of work still there to be done, but we think if the news is good, we'll be putting in a good bid and hopefully be having a team. And so there's a lot of preparation going towards that. It's basically the biggest focus is just being ready for that. We will be getting a team house, probably moving everyone to either LA, or if they focus on cities, then whatever city we bid for, and just doing everything we can prepare for that. We setting up our roster to hopefully peak around that time, instead of, we made some moves that aren't perhaps immediately good for the team, but are looking to build for the league. And so it's all just focused around that. It's like Dota a few years ago, where everything was just focused on TI.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, as you kind of are in the infancy of the Overwatch competitive scene, I mean, do you see any similarities between it and what Dota's been going through? Or what Dota maybe had gone through at the time in its own infancy?
Yeah, I touched on this a bit, though. Right now I just kind of see it as just kind of preparing for TI is like the real analogy. Otherwise, like it's they're setting up the league to be completely different. Right? It's going to be franchised, probably closest to something like the LCS for League, and so completely different format from CS:GO or Dota, where there's these big occasional tournaments sponsored by Valve. It's going to be very, very structured, kind of weekly events. So that way it's very different, but just leading up to it, because we know that's coming, we know that's on the horizon, we know we want to be at that. It's right now it's very much like all the teams that were looking to TI. We want to, all these other tournaments are just warm up, right, for TI, and to test our rosters and to, scout out opponents.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Well, I'm so glad that you stopped by. It's interesting to. I had no idea about obviously the Overwatch stuff, and that I'm really glad that we were able to kind of delve into some of that. That's fascinating and exciting, and congrats on that position. And we wish you nothing but success on that front. Does Liquid Overwatch have do you guys have a web page or a Twitter handle?
No. So Team Liquid in general has 2 Twitter handles, one for the league team and one for everyone else. So Team Liquid or at Team Liquid and at Team Liquid LOL for league. All our Overwatch stuff just goes through the at Team Liquid handle. So there's no real game specific social media or anything for that.
Yeah. Well, if you guys are interested in keeping an eye on what's going on with just Team Liquid in general, give them a follow at Team Liquid, and of course you can go to teamliquidpro.com and see just about everything that's going on there. All their teams are listed there, and players, and what's going on. And of course, don't forget about Liquipedia. That's wiki.teamliquid.net. We use it all the time. So the running joke here is we did a pro show for a little while, actually here in this Wednesday time slot that we're recording on now, and the running joke is that podcast was just us reading Liquipedia results. That's what we were doing.
Yeah,
so we're
glad it's come to that. We love seeing the wiki everywhere.
Yeah, we tell people they can just hit us up and we'll read them the Team Liquid page over Skype or Discord instead. It'll be easier. Awesome. But yeah, so if you guys are looking for pro news, if you want to know what's going on, we occasionally get hit up and people say, why don't you do a pro show where you do weekly updates? And it's because you can get to the minute updates over at Liquipedia. Go scope it out. Help support people like Tephus who are putting in that hard work to keep that thing running. It's a great site. I'll credit it with keeping me informed about when things are going on. I maybe my favorite feature with that site, and especially from just our brief stint with doing the pro show, and one thing that I frequently use even now is the upcoming matches, and there are links to the streams that are going when a match is going live. You guys do a countdown timer, so you don't have to worry about any of that miserable time zone conversion nonsense. So if you guys are really interested in following the Dota 2 pro scene, and I'll say that probably extends to StarCraft, to Hearthstone, to Smash, to Counter-Strike, to Overwatch, you can go to Liquipedia and you can get that information. So we definitely appreciate the work you guys put in for the community. That's awesome.
Yeah, and if anyone's ever interested in helping out, it's 100% open. All you need is an account, and you just start hacking away. If you have any questions, you can join us on Discord. That's linked a few places. Always people there willing to help out, and we're always looking for more editors. That's how wikis function, is contributions from the community in general. Can't do it alone.
I was about to encourage one of the .peeps, one of the folks that listen to the show, to go make a Defense of the Patients Liquipedia page entry on there, but then I realized you guys might suffer from the same things that other wikis do, which is false information, and I can only imagine the misery on that page. So maybe I won't encourage that.
There was a discussion, ongoing discussion between a few of the staff about putting together maybe a podcast or a YouTube series or something about some of the interesting vandalizations and stuff like that have happened to the wiki. There's some interesting ones out there that we've recorded.
That'd be. I would love to hear that. Would love to hear that. Any interesting ones you can tease for us here?
I don't have access to that spreadsheet at the moment. They're pretty constant though. There's a lot of players being upset at teams when they lose, or players when they lose, and just adding in random slurs or insults to their player page. Some of the best ones was my favorite ones for Dota, where we were still setting up and trying to cover the entire scene, and our China section was very lacking. And so we got this guy, knew a lot of Chinese, followed the Chinese scene, started setting up all the kind of teams and player pages, but we didn't have photos for anyone. And he started to take a few liberties with photos for a lot of the Asian Chinese players, and started so like Banana, he just like put a photo of a banana, and like Kabu, he put a Pokemon Kabutops. Like just a lot of really kind of silly things, like stuff we in general shouldn't have, but it was pretty funny at the time. Yeah, we couldn't really ban him or anything too, because he was doing all this work by himself. He just had these little flair touches to some of the pages.
Oh, that's great. Well, you see, folks, that's the kind of stuff you could do over at Liquipedia. I won't encourage it, though. I won't encourage it, I promise. If you guys want to follow Tephus, which I definitely encourage you to do, because, hey, this is where you're going to hear all the cool, Team Liquid Overwatch stuff coming down. You can follow him at Tephus, Tephus, on Twitter. And this has been truly interesting. I'm really glad you popped by.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You can definitely follow me. I'm not the most active on Twitter, but I'm always glad to have a few more followers.
Yeah, let them know you popped in and heard this interview, and give them a shout out. I know we have a ton of folks that are listening to or playing Overwatch these days, and we see them alive and well in the Discord. So I know they're cheating on Dota, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and I'll forgive them for your sake. I'll forgive them for your sake, Tephus. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here at DotP. If you guys want to find us, you know the drill, defenseofthepatients.com. Find us on Twitter at DotP_show. Go to patreon.com/defenseofthepatients. We are recording this in the past, so I don't know what the count is right now, but as of the time of this recording, it's like $750 a month is what you guys have gotten us up to. We're working on that $1,000 goal. Coming up this Saturday, March 18th, we had to reschedule the Patreon reward stream because we realized we were competing with the Kiev Majors, and we did not want to do that. So we're going to be going live on March 18th on twitch.tv/.ptv at 6 p.m. Eastern, running until midnight, and we're just going to do all sorts of shenanigans. There will probably be a commercial at the beginning of this episode that I haven't even heard or know anything about yet, where we list all the giveaways. But trust me, those are going to be going down. And email us at defenseofthepatients@gmail.com, discord.gg/.p. I think that's it, folks. You know all the rest. So until next time, this is Cyphus for Tephus saying good luck. Oh, I just realized how confusing this interview could potentially be with Cyphus Tephus. But thankfully we didn't get into that. Thankfully. Until next time, Cyphus for Tephus saying good luck and Godspeed.